Am I the antagonist for being annoyed boyfriend is home on my day off? Title's a bit weird, let me explain. So my boyfriend and I both work the day shift, so we are both home after 6 p.m. We have our days off set up that he is off Saturday and Sundays, and I am off Sundays and Mondays. We each get one day off to ourselves to just be alone and do our own thing, and then one day off together to do whatever we want as well. My boyfriend and I have fairly different hobbies. We split doing his/me things together throughout the week. He's really into fitness and working out and always being active. I'm a pretty strong gamer and enjoy SFX and more indoor and less sweaty things. So he stayed up stupid late last night and called into work this morning. 9/10x I wouldn't care. But it's Monday. It's my only day to myself. And he is constantly bugging me to go work out with him, or go on a hike, or generally to just be active because he's bored. Again, 9/10x wouldn't matter and I'd spend a few hours doing whatever he wanted. I need this day to just be quiet and dark and me time. I am 100% on the opposite end of a social person. I just want my one day to be alone, to recuperate for the week. I look forward to this one day the entire week. I'm definitely annoyed, and definitely showing it, even though I'm trying not to. I have tried explaining this, Eve tried being nice and just telling him I need some me time, and he's just not listening. I pretty much snapped and told him to just leave me the fuck alone for a bit. And now he's sulking in the living room. AITA? This keeps coming up. It is not a one-off, he does call in about one Monday a month, sometimes two. His job allows this as long as they are ahead of schedule. This is why I say 9/10x I do not care and can usually be alone on these days. We still spend the evening together. When he'd usually be home from work. We split our hobbies together as well. I bike, hike, work out 3 to 4 days a week and he plays games and lets me cover him with makeup. It's not like we don't do things together. NTA the fact you have asked him to give you space and he won't respect that boundary puts him in the wrong here. NTA. I don't understand that because people live together people expect to spend all of their free time with their partner. We are allowed time alone? It's actually healthy for a relationship that we allow the other to pursue their hobby even if that's outside of the relationship. You've already established the boundary you have for your time together/your time apart and he has overstepped that boundary. As someone who isn't very social, I can completely understand why that would annoy you. OMG, so not the a-hole. If my husband disturbed my regularly scheduled introvert in her whole time, I would be a mess lol. I call these times my goblin hours. You deserve your goblin hours too. It's possible to both be home and have personal space/time, but it sounds like he's not respecting you wanting to just have a chill day if he keeps bugging you to go work out with him. If he's bored, he can entertain himself. Am I the antagonist for calling my brother an inconsiderate, insecure, pompous dick? My brother and I are not very close. I can tolerate him if need be, but I think he struggles in many social situations. He can't seem to read basic social cues and makes many inappropriate comments and jokes. He has strong opinions about everything, jumps to unreasonable conclusions, and never lets things go. My wife and his wife have been friends for years. My wife doesn't like my brother much, but she is very polite and courteous towards him for the sake of my sister-in-law. My wife and I lost our 3-year-old son about a year ago. His death was sudden and there is not a day that goes by where I don't grieve him. There will never come a day, hour, minute, or second I'll stop loving or thinking about my son. In my family, talking about a dead child makes people uncomfortable and is almost treated as taboo. I'm not too fond of this culture, and I have been candid about going to therapy, counseling sessions, support groups, etc. My wife and I started going to marriage therapy after the loss of our son. My family believes that we are going to couples counseling because our marriage is failing or my wife isn't satisfying me enough. This could not be further from the truth, and I think it's a bit disgusting and ridiculous. My sister-in-law invited my wife and I for a nice dinner at their place to celebrate my wife's birthday. Most of my family would be there, and she promised us no drama and/or unnecessary comments. We got there and it was nice at first. Everyone was being respectful and I was having fun. Near the end, a few people gave my wife small gifts. We were planning to open them at home and react privately, but my brother was very adamant about seeing my wife's reaction to his gift. He was so sure that he had the best gift and wanted my wife to open his gift in front of everyone. Nothing could have prepared me for his present. He gave her a baby's romper meant for a newborn boy and an expensive set of lingerie. I was so shocked. When she looked at him, he laughed and said that it was to motivate her to bring a spark back into the marriage. Everyone was speechless until my wife politely thanked everyone for coming and then left, leaving my brother's gift. I told my brother that the gift was wrong and incredibly inappropriate. He started to get defensive and very aggressive, so in anger, I called him an inconsiderate, insecure, pompous dick. My sister-in-law, as well as a few other family members, told me that even if the gift was in bad taste, I shouldn't have called him such names and provoked him. I may be the AH for the unnecessary name-calling. NTA. The names you called your brother were the perfect description of his personality. Cut off any personal contact with him until he apologizes to your wife. I am truly sorry for your loss. Holy cow. Your brother is a total ass. In most cases, I would agree that you generally just thank the gift giver and move on. But he pushed you to open the present in public and compounded the inappropriate gift with an inappropriate comment. You were well within your rights to tell him what you thought. NTA, and I'm so sorry for your loss. It sounds like you and your wife are doing everything you can to cope, and I wish you all the best. I gotta ask, though, did your sister-in-law not know what her husband bought? NTA, you're a better person than me. That BS maneuver would have led to physical violence on my part. Ditch him entirely. First, I am truly sorry for your loss. I think that losing a child would be something that you never stop grieving. Anecdotally, parents who lose children have a high divorce rate, so continuing therapy is excellent for you both. I wouldn't have called bro pompous, but would have said that he is an inconsiderate, perverted AH. He owes you and your wife a public and private apology. He is toxic as hell. I would avoid him. Am I the antagonist for having my kids wear tie-dye when with their dad? I, 30F, my ex-husband, 31 male. Got divorced 5 years ago. During our divorce, we owned an old single-wide mobile home, 1973. On a large piece of land that is zoned for a trailer park. He wanted the new truck and our savings. I wanted the old trailer and the land. My ex and I have 2 girls, 8 and 7. Since my divorce, I slowly started buying old single-wides and restoring them, turning it into a business. I love it. My girls go to their dad's and AP apartment every other weekend. I started noticing their clothes, electronics, toys were not coming home. At first I thought their dad was just keeping a few outfits there for them. However, my 8-year-old got upset when she was packing. I asked her what was wrong. She told me her dad takes her clothes and sells them online. That she doesn't want to take her favorite shirt over there. I immediately called my ex. I asked him to return our daughter's clothes. Not wanting to throw my daughter under the bus. I blamed it on them not having enough for school. He played dumb. He said he got rid of the clothes that were too small. I pointed out that the jeans our 7 years had were brand new. He then said that it was only fair he got some cash because he owned the trailer and land. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing this good. I was pissed. I took my daughters down to the dollar store and bought cheap shirts. To a thrift store and bought cheap shorts. We had a girls' tie-dye night. Hot pink everything. Each made 5 shirts and 5 bottoms. I let our girls design and decorate them. My girls loved it. The following week, X sends the girls home. I could tell he is mad, but he didn't say anything. The clothes were not returned. No fear, I knew this would be an issue. We made extras. When the girls went back, they were wearing tie-dye. They were with their dad for an hour before he called and demanded different clothes. I kindly told him that our daughters love those clothes. They really, really love tie-dye. X get even angrier and said his parents have a major family party and the girls can't wear pink tie-dye. I told him that he should go buy other clothes if he didn't want them to wear it. He called me an A for being petty. Am I the antagonist? Doc, keep a record of what goes over there and back, as you can have the child support changed to show he is taking it back. NTA, you need to take this man to court. He is stealing from his children and doesn't care that it is causing them clear and understandable distress. NTA, and your answer was exactly right. He should be obligated to buy them clothes. He's their dad, for goodness sakes. What kind of father sells his own children's clothes off their backs? If you can, please take him to court and give your kids the option of not visiting him as soon as you're legally able. You need to start making a list. Keep track of what is going missing, the comments your kids are making. It's something you're going to want to have record of if he tries to get custody. Also, he's their parent. Didn't realize you were supposed to be 100% responsible for their clothing they have on. If he wants them to wear something different at his house, he can buy it. Am I the antagonist for holding on to my boundaries in relationship? I, 29 male, am dating my GF, 28 female, for the past 7 years. When our relationship began, I made my boundaries clear: no smoking and no unnecessary permanent body alterations, tattoos, plastic surgeries, etc., with reasonable exceptions. At first, all was fine, that is, up until her 24th birthday, where she wanted her birthday present to be a tattoo of a pentagram. She knew it was one of my boundaries, so she started to reason with me as to why she should get it. In the end, I agreed, as it seemed to be reasonably meaningful to her. Another tattoo was made a year later when I told her I am concerned about her increasing obsession towards tattoos. She calmed me down by claiming this tattoo was also very meaningful to her and that she won't do any stupid tattoos. Today, she came home wanting another tattoo. A dog paw tattoo to symbolize her love of our dog. Now that seemed too much for me. It is clearly a nondescript dog paw. I already told her my opinion of it numerous times, but she thinks I am being controlling. I told her that I don't want to control her, but I believe I have a right to choose who I want to be with, and if she breaks my boundaries, I won't be there with her. She thinks this is a manipulative ploy to control her. TLDR, my girlfriend wants a tattoo against my initial relationship boundaries after 7 years of otherwise happy relationship. YTA, that's not a boundary, that's just being controlling. You don't get to decide what she does with her body, and if you don't like it, then you should leave. FYI, a boundary is what happens to your body. You don't get to put boundaries on other people's bodies. Grow up. YTA, people grow up and also change. You never had the right to make demands on what your partner does with her body or her money. It's now time for you to grow up. If it's a deal breaker, you have a decision to make. Otherwise, hush. Your boundaries begin and end with you, they don't extend to her body. I think you need to learn about what boundaries actually mean. She's right, you are being manipulative and controlling by threatening to break up over what you call her obsession. You're absolutely within your rights to break up with someone you don't find attractive, but you don't get to hold the threat of a breakup over them to control them. YTA. Boundaries are usually associated with things that are yours, your time, energy, body, etc. Things associated with other people are your preferences or flags. I wouldn't call this a boundary issue. A lot of people have preferences their partner doesn't fulfill. You either got to break up with her or get over it. Am I the antagonist for not waking up my husband for work? Currently, our marriage is in the toilet, and due to financial reasons, we can't give ourselves a separation. We've been living like roommates for the past few months and have laid down rules to give us some time and space to think about things. We've been together for over a decade, and I've always been someone who wakes up an hour or more sooner than needed, while he's the type of person who will leave to the airport 20 minutes before his flight leaves. So over the years, we've gotten into a routine where I wake him up since he usually sleeps through his alarms. But due to our current issues and us being more of roommates than spouses, I have stopped waking him up. Whenever we carpool together, I tell him he's got about 15 to 20 minutes to get up and ready before I leave without him. On my days off, I have been trying to make sure I keep my alarms off and let him wake himself up. Over the past few months, this has resulted in him calling out of work a lot or him showing up to work an hour or two late. I had yesterday off, but forgot to turn off my alarms, so I woke up, fed the cat, did a few small morning chores I gave myself, and then went back to bed within 20 minutes. I nudged my husband to tell him that he needed to wake up or he'd be late. He told me to bugger off. He ended up arriving to work 3 hours late and came home with a final write-up. If he shows up late again or calls out without a doctor's note or a really good excuse, then he'll be fired. He blamed me for not waking him up in time and said that all the write-ups were my fault too. I kind of flipped out on him, but it came down to, if you don't want to be my husband, then I'm not going to treat you like one. So, you're responsible for your own shit. Later on, when I talked to some friends about it, I got a few mixed reactions. Update: he does have alarms, but almost never wakes up to them, or if he actually does, then he'll shut it off and roll back over, so I used to wake him up whenever he'd roll back over. Since we've separated, I've stopped reminding him the night before to set his alarms, and when his alarms go off, I continue with my morning rather than shutting it off and waking him up with each different alarm. Over the years, I'd still wake him up on my days off because I'd wake up to the alarms while he would sleep through them. Update 2. He does have insomnia that usually kicks up in the wintertime. He'll often stay awake for 24 plus hours, then sleep 3 hours, then stay awake for another 30 plus hours, then after a week or so of that he'll eventually crash and sleep 12 plus hours. However, even when his insomnia isn't bothering him, he'll often stay awake pretty late, and even when I have gotten him to go to sleep at a reasonable hour, he'll knock out immediately, stay asleep the entire night, then wake up complaining that he only slept 3 or 4 hours and refuse to believe that he slept 8 to 10 hours. For a while I was working overnight shifts while he worked afternoon shifts. Our sleeping schedules were the opposite, and even on my days off he'd claim to not sleep, even though I personally saw him on a deep sleep for 8 plus hours. Update 3. Just want to say thank you to everyone replying. It's really making me realize that I have more or less been gaslighting myself into thinking a lot of the issues in our marriage are my fault. As for not being able to separate due to finances, the main reason is because before he wanted the separation, we were getting things set up to move out of state by the end of the year and tied up what little money we had into that. TBH, our entire adulthood, we've been at that financial point where we're too poor to afford a lot of things but make too much money to get any assistance. I honestly thought that all the changes in him were because he was stressed about us moving. I had really hoped that our marriage problems were manageable and could be fixed, or at least have us on the right track to fixing it before we moved. My family lives near where we had planned to move, and I have let my family know that we're going through a rough patch, but honestly I've kept the majority of it away from them. I come from a big family, and everyone has either offered up a spare room or a job if I don't get a transfer from my current one. I know I'd be better off financially without him, but I just really wanted to make things work and fix this. Unfortunately, it's kind of just making things harder on myself, but if he loses his job, then I do have other options other than having to take care of him until he gets on his feet. NTA. He's a grown man. Even if you were in the best relationship ever, it should not be your responsibility to regularly wake him up. You are his wife, not his mother. NTA. I'm missing the part where you failed to wake your husband up. You did. He told you to bugger off. Even if you were still happily married, you wouldn't be at fault. Speak with family members about helping you finance your separation. You need to be done with this deadbeat. Also, if you have separate assets, you might want to find a safe place to put them before he gets fired and drags you through bankruptcy. NTA. Find a way to put yourself out of your misery and get out of this marriage/house. He sounds like an immature jerk who needs to grow up and take care of his own crap. Also, what's wrong with your friends that they think this is your fault in any way? Maybe you need to get rid of them, too, lol. Your husband definitely expects to be mothered. It's 100% his fault if he loses his job. If he lived alone, who would he blame? He needs to grow up and manage himself, and getting up in time to be where you are expected is pretty damn basic. Am I the antagonist for questioning one of my cheerleaders about a weight gain? Throwaway. I'm a varsity competitive cheer coach for high schoolers. I work for a club, not a school, which is important later on. One of my students, Cassidy, has been slowly but very noticeably putting on weight over the last 4 or 5 months. She had to request a new uniform 2 sizes up. It's gotten to the point where she just looks out of place, and these types of things can cost us a competition. About a week ago, I pulled her aside during practice and gently explained that I needed my girls to be in good shape. I gave her a bit of a lecture on healthy eating and exercise habits. She seemed to take it pretty well. But then she didn't show up for practice at all since then. I had no idea what happened, and neither did her teammates. Yesterday, I got a very angry call from Cassidy's mother. Apparently, she's been in recovery for anorexia, and I pushed her into a bad relapse. No one told me. She was even in partial hospitalization, but I didn't notice because she still showed up to practice, even though she missed school, and obviously no one from her school would contact me. Cassidy's mom reported me to my boss, and I was chewed out for it even though I had no way of knowing the situation. They're considering suspending me. I'm inclined to think I did nothing wrong, but everyone around me is calling me an asshole for it. Info: how is it that a girl who is being treated for anorexia fits right into the team, but one gaining a healthy weight looks out of place to the point that it might cost you a competition? Genuine question. I'm not from the US, and I don't really understand the context. Either first, you never know what is going on with someone. Second, as far as competition goes, I have seen girls of all sizes on teams. And that includes state champion cheerleaders. So don't say that it could cost you a competition if a girl was a different size. As long as she still does her role on the team. I'm having a feeling you are very biased towards girls that don't fit your image of the perfect cheerleader. Even different heights and sizes have different roles. Like a lighter, shorter girl will be a flyer. You're dealing with a vulnerable population. You need to remember that. Also, maybe a possible suspension will be a wake-up call for you. Teens are a high-risk group. You already know you're the a-hole when you posted this. You had no reason to need the information about a minor's medical conditions that did not affect her ability to participate. You had no reason to make a judgment call on her weight gain. You had no reason to lecture her on diet and exercise. You are not a physician and have no authority to do so. You should be suspended. You should be fired. You should be barred from working with teenagers, since that's an age in which many disorders based around image tend to take hold. Most of all, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are the problem. You could have handled this much better. You really don't have any right to know any of her underlying medical history other than what her parents wished to share. Probably would have been better to meet with your boss and express your concerns and go from there. And then maybe a meeting with the parent, but only regarding her ability to participate in the sport.